Okay, I have started streaming.
Well, come on, you.
Hey everybody, happy Sunday.
There you go. I was just able to get it up.
Rita says hello everyone. Hi Rita. Welcome. How are you doing this fine Sunday? Charlotte says hi all. Sundrup says hi. Hi Sundrup. Hi Charlotte. Welcome. Ava says hello there. Hi Ava. Ian says greetings. Greetings. Like Tony the Tiger? Is that?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right.
She always picks up on these things because we kind of think along the same lines.
That's what happens when you're together for long enough.
Yep.
Rita says, thank you. Did you guys have a good anniversary? I'm doing good. Our anniversary is Tuesday, so 2 days from today, and so far it's pretty good. We did get together with some family yesterday afternoon, and we celebrated my granddaughter's birthday, Mother's Day from the week before, and our upcoming anniversary, just to throw it in the pot when everybody got together, so it was just close family. And very windy in the park. So that was fun. Darlene says hello. Hi, Darlene. Ruth says hi all. Hi, Ruth. Hurts, but it's true says howdy. Been a while for me. Wonderful to see you again from Burbank, California. Hi, Hurts, but it's true. It's always nice when we get people coming back. We enjoy it. Rita says that's so cool. Yeah, it was funny though too, because my son and his wife didn't come because they were worried since my daughter just had COVID, and they're an anxious group. My daughter-in-law and my son, and so it was too stressful for them since it had just happened like a week and a half ago. So they didn't come, but it turned out it was probably a good thing considering that the park we were going to was so packed and there were so many people there, we had to redirect our mini little party to a different park in the middle, and they wouldn't have known where to go, so we're sort of flexible that way. Lewel says hello. Hi, Lewel. Ava says, I like the flowers in the background. I do too. I was looking at them and they still look nice. And Jono says, hi guys. Hi, Jono. Yeah, so weather has taken a turn for the cooler, which is probably good. No alcohol in here. No. Julia says, hey everyone, smiles and waves happily. Hi Julia, you said you were going to do that on a video, so.
Well, I know, but I mean.
You have one coming up, you can do it on that. And show them off.
Okay, just got the stuff right here.
I know. That means you'll have it here when you are going to use it, so you're good. So we have lots of people who showed up right away, so that's kind of cool. Awesome. What do you all want to talk about? Rita says it's cooler here in Kentucky as well. Yeah, we had that massive heat wave that hit for one day, and it was actually in the 90s here, which is like, okay, time for people to start dropping dead. That's
back to the 60s again.
And now we're back into the upper 50s and mid 60s. Donna says, I watched your video on enlivening statues earlier today. Very interesting stuff. I enjoyed it. Oh, good. I have done another video. It'll be up in a couple of days. So we'll see. I am not sure what to call it. You know me. I'm a rambling thing. But hey, it should be interesting anyway. Ava says, do you know any advice on convincing a Christian family to accept me for being a Satanist? Oh, that seems to be actually, that's what they assume we all are. So I'm not sure what you mean. Accepting it as something positive? Is that where you're heading?
I never had any luck with my Christian family, so I can't help at all who was sure I was a Satanist, even though I was just not interested in Satanism.
Right. In this case, the way she's phrased it looks like she is trying to get them to accept her as being a Satanist.
Well,
so
maybe she is. No judgment.
Right. So I don't know. Belle says hello from Brazil. Violet says hello, guys. Hi, Violet. Yeah. So Ava says yes. Yeah, I have no clue. I would think it would push all of their buttons because, you know, they're on one side and they perceive you as being on the other. So I don't really see that happening in this life. Seems contrary to their belief system to accept it as a positive thing. So good luck. Or give up and, you know, put them in the rear view and say what you think doesn't matter because, you know, it's my path. And I know what I'm doing and who I am and how I feel about it. Ava says, I do worship Satan.
So yeah, that was it for me. Once anybody discovered I was interested in Crowley, that was kind of it. I was just branded as a Satanist and that was that. So yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, we don't. So we don't have any personal experience to draw upon when it comes to that sort of situation. Violet says, my question is this. If a bad spell is cast by a good magician for a person to lose it all, how long does the spell last? Meaning, does it have an expiration date?
That's an interesting question, actually. I was going to let you start answering that.
I really am not sure what to say about it because, I mean, it's a multi-level question.
Okay.
First of all, a bad spell, I'm assuming you mean a spell that has ill intent, not a spell that was done badly.
I'm sure that's...
So, yeah, but me and my little brain, I have to...
by a good magician, I'm sure...
And by a good magician, you mean an effective...
Yes.
Someone who's effective at what they do.
Well...
And why they would do that is beyond me anyway. And when it comes to spell work, the receiver is also a part of the equation. So, I mean, people have cast spells on me to do all kinds of stuff and they've not worked because I won't allow it. Because I am the person who decides my own fate and my own destiny, and I'm not going to let any magician, good or otherwise, out there determine what's going to happen to me or how I'm going to respond. So,
but somebody could, for example, set an elemental on you, make an elemental and send it to you and set it on you as kind of a curse.
Right, and then you could disperse it and make it blow up and send it back to the magician.
You have the ability to be aware of it enough to do
exactly.
Those things.
So that's what I'm saying. So you develop your own abilities to the point where that kind of stuff can't happen without your knowledge, and you have the ability to defend yourself and to send it back to wherever it came from and not participate in your own demise by agreeing that you're going to lose everything.
Okay, but that doesn't... The expiration date. In general, a good magician would put an expiration date on it because it's going to make it materialize more effectively. If they don't, then they're just putting out a burst of energy to just last as long as it lasts. And that depends a lot on how powerful they are, but also a lot on how effective your own defenses are, how powerful your aura is, how much work you put into self-control, which builds power for your body rejecting those kind of things. It's kind of like if you're in ill health, and you catch COVID, it'll probably affect you a lot worse than if you're in stunning good health and catch COVID, just because your body's stronger. So it's kind of the same thing. So how badly it affects you depends on your own psychic health, say. So if they programmed in an expiration date, then that means if you can fight it off for that long, then it'll just expire and be gone. I don't think most magicians are aware of the advantage of doing that.
Making an expiration date?
Yeah. So it's probably not likely, but usually it'll stick around depending on how much energy they send off, or if they do it over and over again to keep it alive. In other words, it will deteriorate after a while. It'll depend on how good your defenses, or the person being attacked, how good their defenses were in their health. And
or if you
those
put
kind of
enough
things,
energy
yeah.
into it to keep it going.
Because those things don't usually strike for an exact result. If
They're more
something
generalized.
hits somebody, they usually hit in a place a person has a weakness to start with. I found, and that's just the nature of it. If somebody sends a malicious energy to you, it'll probably come through whatever if it's strong enough to come through at all, shows up through the weakest areas. That makes sense.
So Julia says at Ava, don't be shocking for one, don't overshare for another. Private is private, and if they don't need to know, don't go into it. Have some idea of what you're willing to share and low key. Ava says, I haven't told my family about it yet, but I have been thinking about it. Probably not a good idea. Yeah, probably not. Louisville says, I'm not sure it's possible to convince a Christian that what we are is okay. There is common belief of the war between good and evil, and once they see you as on the enemy side, it's a question of salvation to them. Yes.
And I'm afraid from my experiences, I kind of agree with Luell on that one. I mean, theoretically, there's always a chance, but I haven't run into anybody that's been that forgiving of other people's stuff.
Well, I mean, they have a hard... it is difficult for them in general to accept that any other religion is valid in and of its own right and has nothing to do with them. So yeah. And Julia says nods in agreement. Jono says, Ava, that's a tough one. I don't see a path to success in that case. Do a reconciliation spell or practice accepting. You won't be accepted by everyone. Good luck. E. Stefani says, thank you for what you do. You're welcome. Glad to be appreciated.
We have mushrooms growing.
Oh no. That's so funny. We have mushrooms growing inside of our building. That's a bad sign.
Yeah, because of the roof leak.
Because of the roof leak, yes. We're working on finding a way to get that fixed. Jamie Castellano says hello from Mexico. Hi, Jamie. Ava says, Louisville, yeah, that makes sense. Violet says, thank you for that amazing answer. You're welcome, Violet. Jamie says, hello. Oh, I did that one. Jamie says, I'm beginning my magic path, and thank you for the time put into teaching us. Good. I'm hopeful that some of the stuff I put out there is helpful to people, especially in the beginning when they're trying to figure out what they want to do. And there's so much information and misinformation out there. It's overwhelming. So I'm glad. Stefani says, there are some of us who have these experiences as children and have no one to talk to. Thank you for freely talking about your experiences. And yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, there was no one to talk to either. And that's one of the things, is like, if I'm doing a paranormal investigation that involves children, I'm there as quick as possible, because I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of some strange experience and not having anybody to talk to about it. So, yeah. So I'm glad that I'm doing it, and hopefully it helps others. Ava says, that's true. I see a lot of Christians commenting under pagan posts saying, God loves you or Jesus loves you. Yeah. And if they start doing that to our channel, I've gotten a number of those that you all have never seen, because there's no point in putting them out there, because that's not what our channel is about. We're not about discussing the differences between their path and our path, or anyone else's path. We're here to explore our own path and decide for ourselves what we want to be and do and work towards and so forth. So the ones that send them, usually in the first couple of paragraphs, well, actually in the first 2 sentences, it becomes very clear. There's a lot of Bible quotes, and they're always telling me I need to find Jesus, otherwise, I'm doomed. So I just block them from the channel, because there's no reason for them to be here. And that's one of our ways to try and keep this environment safe for people, because it's, not a good thing. So Vanessa V says, hello, wonderful Sunday, everyone. Hi, Vanessa V. Julia says that Ava, well, I always say that I love me more. And that's a good response. You should at least love yourself as much. Trish Harrell says, hey from Florida. I'm glad I finally get to catch a live. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 3, and I thoroughly enjoy all of your knowledge. Thank you. You're welcome, and we're happy that you're here. It helps us to keep going, having these conversations with people. Ava says, laugh out loud. Grace says, hi, everyone. So glad I finally caught you live. I love your videos. They are so informative and helpful. We're getting a bunch of new people. Yay, welcome. Murr says, salvation is a lie. We save ourselves by learning who we really are. Yep. Jamie says, I'm sorry for deviating from the Christian topic, but I have a question. I've been reading several grimoires, and they have spells and pacts with high-ranking entities. I'm afraid I might chew more than I'm capable right now. Any advice on a good grimoire to start with?
Well,
not doing any grimoires whatsoever would be a better place to start with, because what you want to do is learn the basics first before you delve into anything that's called a grimoire.
Yeah, so if I had to make a recommendation there, I would recommend you read Barden's second book before you take up any grimoire stuff. And he's like you might almost call it a grimoire of positive beings.
Yeah.
And there would be the safest group to work with, and he's knows all the rules that need to be followed to keep yourself from getting into trouble.
And from accidentally making a pact with a
Yeah.
being and end up spending half of your eternity after you leave this life in a realm that you're not all that interested in once you've been there for too long.
Yeah, so if people wanted to go the Western route, they usually start with the lesser key of Solomon or the greater key, whichever one's the. I think the lesser key is one that deals with the spirits. I can't quite recall, but again, there's no sort of the knowledge there like Barden has. So yeah, I don't recommend any of them, and in fact, Barden gives so many beings that he lists with their seals and things that are so helpful, and they're all positive, that I don't see why, if a person wants to get there by dealing with beings, they couldn't do basically anything they wanted to with any of Barden's entities that he lists, and they're in most cases more powerful than the ones you'll run across in the grimoires and things.
Yeah, and if you look at the old stories about dealing with the beings in the grimoires, there's tons of stories about magicians being chased by demons down the middle of town because they failed to do one thing that they were supposed to. Because a lot of those relationships in the old texts are adversarial, and the whole notion is you're going to do this because I say you're going to do this, and it's by my authority that you're going to do whatever I tell you to, and if you fail, I'm going to punish you, and you're going to be sorry. And that starts off a relationship on a bad note. I mean, if someone came up to me and said, hey, I'm going to make you do something you don't want to do because I have more juice than you, and I'm like, excuse me? And the first chance I get to whack them, I'm taking it.
But yeah, that's one of the major problems with what I'll call the Western Hermetic way of dealing with, maybe hermetic is the wrong word, but the typical Western approach towards dealing with the grimoires and entities or that kind of thing, all threats and things right off the bat, whereas if you know what you're doing and you're doing it right, you should never have to threaten a being, except in the most extreme cases when you might want to have a magical sword ready, but so much is in the attitudes. And I don't recommend anybody work from a grimoire, but that being said, I have visited a couple of the beings from the the Solomon's Grimoire and have found them more or less neutral acting towards me in particular, but you know, I traveled to them. I didn't try doing an evocation of them. So, and it was only in a couple cases of, well, one was not, but one was a case of extreme necessity I felt to do it, so.
So Lula says, you all might find it funny. Walked into a cathedral last week for artistic reasons, really nice interior, and didn't burst into flames. I'm always surprised when I don't melt when I go out in the rain. And I make that comment regularly. I look up and I go like, well, it's a good thing that it's not true that witches melt when it rains from the Wizard of Oz. People look at me like, what? I'm like, okay, you don't get it. That's fine with me. So anyway, Jamie says, then I'm capable right now. Any advice on we did that. Barden first, Jamie says. Jono says, and this is what we said. Mur says, no, pacts with entities. Jamie says, thank you, Jono, and everyone. I hadn't considered your opinions. I will start with Barden and the Lesser Key. Thank you so much. Mur says, any positive spirit won't ask for a deal. In general, that's true. Sometimes you can accidentally end up owing them one, but I like to do favors. That's kind of the way I roll. It's like, if they ask me for help and I can help, I will. And if I ask them for help, I do it. If you can do this, that'd be great. If not, that's fine. I'll find another way.
Or you can provide the energy up front, like if you make an offering to the being first, say, this is the energy I need you to use, can you help me with this? Then that's another way to avoid that. The main thing is, if they do anything for you and don't get an even energy exchange, then you need to pay that off after your death by working for them to basically
balance the scale.
Balance it, yeah, for an equivalent amount of whatever.
Right. And you can just sort of be drawn to them and not look back. It can happen. So Sundrop says, do I need to place daily protection on me every day? And the answer is yes. It's a good idea to get into the habit of doing that because you want to have control over your own energy. Protection is basically setting a boundary and saying, this is me and this is as far as other can come, and outside of that is other and not me. And so you start to become aware of your own boundaries, spiritual, energetic, etc. And so that it's not like you need to defend yourself against the universe kind of protection, but like if I'm going to go into the grocery store and go shopping, I'm going to make sure that I'm aware of my own energy field. Sometimes I wear stones, sometimes I don't, and I'm aware of what's coming at me so I can block it if I don't like it. I'm trying to be more open when I'm in the grocery store, but it's sort of a tricky thing because you're in a I don't know, it's like being thrown in a river full of strangers sometimes. So
yeah, it is. Sometimes you just feel like you just need to block things. I do occasionally. The best way is probably to charge up a stone or something for that purpose, and then you can put it in some silk. You don't want it to work, carry it with you when you do. That way you can have relief if you feel like you need it, but most of the time...
Well, that's usually more kind of advanced kind of stuff. So.
Most of the time, I don't. I suppose I did when I was first starting out, but yeah.
Well, it helps to get the right people attracted to you, too. And the people that have that sort of energy awareness are going to notice that you're around. And you want the positive ones to notice you, not the negative ones, because some of them will notice, too. So Jono says, Jamie, the lesser key is the Goetta. Don't start there. Start with the greater key, not Saturn. I have with incredible success. Mur says, so don't make any. Yeah, packs. It's a good idea. Mary says, hi everyone. Hope everyone has been doing well. I have missed many Sundays. Last weekend I had company. We all went to see Stevie Nicks in Raleigh. She is super witchy. Tons of goddess energy. Awesome. That's fantastic. I understand you missing it because that would be wonderful. And she is definitely witchy and goddessy. Ava says, what about stolas? I'm not sure what a stola is. Do you?
No.
Okay, you need to give me more about what that is. Jono says laughing, so maybe he knows. Vanessa V says, are there any books you recommend on the goddess Venus? I found one, but it was superficial for my taste. Well, that's a good one. Well, I would look more for Aphrodite because you tend to get more complete stuff. But I don't know. It's hard to find good books on a lot of the deities that are out there, and I just like access a lot of information and then try to get some direct knowledge when I can.
Yeah, if you can scry them and get in contact.
Yeah, so I'll look around, but I mean, I had one on moon goddesses and virgin goddesses, but that wouldn't be Aphrodite or Venus. So yeah, try to do your research in the veins of like you're a scholar looking for scholarly papers by people who actually are in the know, and see if you can come up with more accurate information on what they are like, I'd say. But the individual personal connection is what's going to give you the most when it comes to that. So Luna says, hi all, how are you, Siofra and Ian? We're doing pretty good. We have our anniversary dinner on Tuesday. We're going to go eat sushi. Mer says, help is okay if it's not a trick or unreasonable favor. May I ask, how do you discern this?
Pretty easily. So you can consider it like an energy exchange. So if you like talk to a being and get some information from them that they're willing to give you, that's fine. You can just talk to them and get that. But if you were to try to ask a being to like bring you a drink of water or something, I say this because there was a guy who did that. Try to force a being to bring you a drink of water or something they wouldn't normally be able to do, and they had to expend a lot of energy to do that. So that would be kind of an unreasonable request, and then it would end up, if they succeeded in doing that, that would end up forming a pact between you and them because you have to pay that energy back in the afterlife. It's not like signing an agreement, you know, that the physical kind of pact you actually see on TV. Mostly it's things like that. If you can supply everything for them to do what you're asking them to do, that would be okay. But then, of course, if you could do that, you wouldn't need to be asking them. So it's kind of like that. If you accept any favors from a lot of beings, it'll be that type of thing. So yeah, information is all well and fine, but doing the material stuff means you'll have to pay it back. So you can look at it if I guess I can't really be any clearer than that. That pretty much sums up. Sorry, my brain is wandering a little bit, but yeah, it's something you have to judge. But it's just, if they have to go to any special effort on your part and they aren't paid with the energy somehow in advance, then that'll come up.
You can also have sort of some key phrases in mind, like for the good of all, and according to the free will of all, to my highest good purpose, as long as this isn't harming me or anyone else. Think about that kind of stuff when you're communicating, I guess, would be something to do too. And like with me, it's like, I become friends with different spirit beings, and they sometimes come in and ask me for favors, and like I said, if I can do it, I will. And it's an energy exchange, just like you would with any kind of relationship that you would have. It's like it's back and forth. If it's always just one way, then there's going to be a problem later down the road, I guess would be a way to put that. So Jono says hi Luna. Luna says hi Jono. Julia says love Stevie Nicks. Think Roman outfits or even Greek. Sundrup says, have you smudged with sage? Oh yeah. Sage can be kind of harsh sometimes. It depends. But smudge is a good thing to smudge. Sage is a good thing to smudge with. I'm growing some of my own sage now. I already had my own sage, but I'm growing the white sage at the moment, and I've got like little pots of seeds that are popping up now, so we'll see how they do. Sweetgrass is another one that's good to do with. It's like each plant, if you're going to burn it, has a different property. Sage is sort of for getting rid of negative energy and expelling negative energy. Sweetgrass is for pulling in positive energy, and the names say it all. It's like, and sweetgrass smells sweet. It's literally a sweet, wonderful smell. So, people use cedar and rosemary and lavender and all kinds of things depending on what they're looking for. Violet says, I remember Siofra knew she was a witch at 4. Ian, you were older because your parents made it difficult, plus no computer then. When did you notice your senses' third eye coming online? Siofra, you too. Did your third eye drop open, or was it more subtle than that, or pop open?
Well, for me, it was definitely more subtle. I first, before puberty, I was always interested in stage magic. I was reading books about, what's his name? Houdini.
Okay, Houdini, yeah.
And things like that. When I reached puberty is about the age I got interested in real magical stuff, but that was squashed fast. I would walk down to the public library and check out a couple books on witchcraft and bring them home, and those got just like, that idea got squashed totally, and I was on a basic lockdown. Nothing like that would get through the door, basically, till I was 18. And then I started learning about it. The third eye the clairvoyant thing has been very gradual for me, and it's not really there yet because I haven't focused on clairvoyance specifically, but it's been gradually growing over time, mostly from things that I've needed to do. I try to use it when it's necessary, and sometimes I have some assistance from the other planes that helps, but I couldn't say my third eye was very well open at all at this phase. I'm still focusing on the whole enlightenment deal, more than just the magical practices. But yeah, so since I haven't focused on it, not a whole lot yet. But it is slowly happening, and the things that come through, I think Siofra would definitely say my senses have been growing, but I haven't been focusing specifically on causing that to happen.
With me, I think I came out with it open since I saw spirits since I was little, and remembered past lives and so forth, which is part of third eye activation, is being able to see into the past and the future and things that aren't ordinarily around, and being able to see spirit beings and whatnot, the clairvoyance that comes with the third eye. So it was just kind of always there. My struggle was figuring out how to shut it down and control it so that I would have some semblance of an ability to function in this world that I found myself in. Things were pretty confusing for a long time for me because of that. And so learning, boundaries and how to become self-defined and so forth is part of that, my progress for that. So, I guess that answers that question. Lewis says, congratulations on the anniversary. Love sushi. Yeah, we have one place in town that we like. Luna says, happy anniversary, you guys. Yes, it's been 31 years since we were married.
Yep.
And it'll be 32 years since we got together in July. We have 2 anniversaries. July 5th is our other anniversary. That was our accidental date. But yes. Jono says, hi, Violet. You're asking awesome questions tonight. Violet says, hi, Jono, with a smile. Luna says, hi, Violet. And hi, Luna. Darling says, happy anniversary. Thank you. And Ian says, thank you all for the anniversary wishes. It will be good. Yes, and we went and bought cards. We don't always get cards, so we had to go to the store together and separate to be able to buy cards. So we have cards to give to each other on Tuesday. And my daughter found me a really nice card. She wanted to get me a Mother's Day card, but Mother's Day already happened because, you know, she had COVID and we didn't do Mother's Day together. So she found me this great card that has a picture on it that just is like a powerful female figure. It's just awesome. I love it. So Violet says, Ian, your wandering brain is absolutely the best, and Siofra, your groundedness is really the best too. I know that brain of yours works differently and you make me smile. Ruth says, what color candles do you light to Kali, and do you know the crystals? I think it depends on which aspect of Kali you're trying to get in touch with.
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of different versions.
Yeah, I mean, the Kali protective goddess of destruction and protection and that kind of thing. I have her in the north, and I think of that as black for her when she's there. So I would think that every version of Kali, like Kali Ma, would have a completely different set of candles, colors, crystals, and so forth.
Yeah, depending on a particular one, and I don't know how many different ones, but I know there's at least like 12 that go by different names, slightly different names.
Yeah, there's quite a few. So sorry we don't know as much about that subject that we can just throw it out there. Mur says, balance matters. Thank you very much. You are helpful and kind. You're welcome. Jamie says, in Mexico we have a witchcraft tradition of blood offering. Does that attract both good and bad spirits? I think it depends on what you're making the blood offering for, your intent, like what you're trying to offer the energy for, and who you're offering it to, because blood is life force energy, and so it's definitely an energy exchange kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that's going to depend entirely on the situation. I don't recommend that in general, but it can be effective. They use
well, you can use that
Santeria
for right. You can use that for tagging and making your items attached to you, because the Akasha runs through the blood.
Little drop of blood.
Right, but
on things.
Yeah, so it's really, it's not the thing itself, it's how the thing is used, because there's both
how the energy goes. Yeah,
there's both positive and negative applications of using blood.
Yeah, and like in Santeria, you have to go through specific rituals before you're allowed to do that, where they teach you the things you need to know to move the energy properly.
Yeah. Murr says, happy anniversary, thank you. Luna says, I find sage harsh. Been using black yerba santa, which leaves very little after smell. Yeah. And in a sweat lodge, if you're in a sweat with someone who uses sage on the stones, it makes your eyes water and burn, and it is quite harsh in that. And some of the sweat leaders use sweetgrass, which is a much more pleasant experience. Mary says, Julia Stevie wore all her different scarves from the 80s. What a treat. Awesome. So Val says, hola boa. Is that hello and good night? Or something like that, since I don't speak Spanish. But hi and goodbye, or hi and welcome. Desideradum says, hi everyone and happy anniversary, Chief and Ian. Thank you. Vanessa V says, thank you and happy anniversary. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Jono says, Jamie, my friend, please read Barton's first book before you go deeper. I'm not gatekeeping and I don't mean to condescend. It's free online. The copyright has expired. He covers blood stuff and everything. Cool. Jono says, hi, Dizzy. Desideradum. Desideradum says, what if a sentience or spirit has done something extraordinary for you, like saving your life, and you didn't ask them to?
Well, good for them.
If you didn't ask them to, you don't owe them anything.
That's right. There's no pact or energy exchange. They're they can do that if they choose to. Usually it's when you're trying to get them to do something for you or get something from them that that comes into play.
I've had a couple of experiences where I'm pretty confident that some spirit being intervened in a what would have been a life-threatening situation, and I could not explain what happened after the fact. And the main one was when I walked across the street without looking and walked in front of a speeding car going 35 miles an hour and watched the driver and his face as I walked in front of him as it didn't move. And his face was pretty contorted. And then as I stepped in front of him, he was going 35 miles an hour again. So it was like time shifted for me. Either I was going super fast or everything else slowed down. I have no clue. But I didn't do that for myself. Something or someone did that for me. And I think it's because I wasn't doing it on purpose. And there have been a few other things similar to that. So, you know, it's like beings that exist in a non-corporeal state that have attached themselves to us because they care about us, or they're related to us, or they're connected to us in some other way that we may not yet fully understand, can intervene if they choose to, and then it's a gift.
Yeah, if it's their choice, then you have nothing to worry about.
So Jamie says, thank you, Jono. I'll wait on more questions that might get answered on the reading. I really appreciate your interest to help. Yeah, and, you know, Ian is going to do a video about Barden. Someone asked him to, so hopefully he'll delve a little bit more into that for everybody. Lula says, I had a difficult and lonely childhood, also sick a lot, so I always knew there was a world that others didn't see. I had to reject this for many years to function and not be labeled as crazy. Yeah. It's true. I just can't do it. I mean, I keep telling myself, don't tell anyone that. Keep your mouth shut. Don't share that. This is not good information. You should really keep this to yourself. And then my mouth opens and out it comes. So I've given up. I just blurt. Desiree says, hi to Jono. Mary says, your relationship is inspiring. Enjoy your sushi. Yes, we will. Violet says, what an amazing answer, both of you. Wow, Siofra, on the being born with it open and trying to navigate. For me, super slow and subtle, too. Happy 31 years. That's amazing in today's world. And happy. Not, you know, grudging. Which there's a number of people, I'm sure, that get this far and are like, yeah, right, okay, whatever. Just because they're supposed to. Lewis says, if there are anyone from Montreal, I have to say, awesome place. Visited it for the first time. Very impressed. If I could move there, I would. And you stayed warm enough? I know you were going up there, and we said to definitely have layers, and I saw that it was cold. So, good. Mur says, our earthly identity is more of a magnetized learning that we are finishing up from the past. It's not necessarily supposed to stick for life, and we may aspire to transcend it. That would be rebirth. Well, it's like whatever it is that we're here to do, that's what we're doing. Luna says, been in court 3 days this week to decide my ex's rights to see the kids. Found myself being probed once more on my beliefs and practices as a witch. Oh, that is just rough. Especially nowadays. I mean, when that I wanted to do that at one point when my ex kidnapped my children, and he did it to save their souls from going to hell because I was evil. And, you know, there was this part of me that was tempted to go to court, and I didn't need to because I already actually had a court order saying that they were mine. He had to make the effort in order to get me to court, so different situation, I'm sure. But yeah, that was his goal, was to try and prove me an unfit parent because of my beliefs. And it's like actions speak louder than words, and beliefs are, yeah, I mean, a dime a dozen. Everyone, throw a rock, everyone's going to have a different belief. So good luck and stay strong. Lewis says, love the smell of sage, comforting. Mur says, hi to all. Hi, Mur. Sundrop says, what are your thoughts on ex-witches? There's an ex-witch teaching against witchcraft because she smudged her house with sage, and the spirit activity got worse. So now doesn't practice anymore. Okay, so she apparently did not understand that smudging your house with sage does not stop spirit activity. It removes negative energy. So one, if the spirit's not negative, it's not going anywhere. Two, if the spirit is negative and it leaves, but you don't do something to keep it from coming back, it's going to come back mad. In either case, they're going to be mad. So
Well, and I kind of suspect it probably wasn't. It's easy for a person who has emotional nature to accidentally create thought forms and things which will act like a haunting spirit or something, larva that will feed off the person.
well,
And
there's all of
you
that.
know, that's
Clearly, she wasn't a very good witch, my opinion, because she should have known better. There's a lot of that kind of misinformation that gets out there right at the beginning that I see on the internet all the time. It's like people are saging their houses, and then a week later they have to sage their house again because the energy came back, and a week later they have to sage their house again because the energy came back. And I'm like, you didn't fill it up with anything. You left it empty. And you can't do that. You have to think about how energy works. And if you don't want something negative coming into a space, you have to fill it with something positive that the negative isn't attracted to and isn't interested in and doesn't want to have anything to do with. And then, of course, it could be that it was an actual ghost spirit, like a human spirit or something, and instead of understanding what was going on in her house and dealing with the trauma that the spirit was going through, because human souls, if they're stuck, are always going through some kind of trauma, whether they are aware of it or not, and helping them to resolve it and cross over, it was unresolved. And so sounds like she created an antagonistic situation no matter what it was that was happening. And without more information, it's hard to tell. So, and there's also a bunch of ex-witches who have reverted back to Christianity, and I also don't put much stock in what they have to say. You have to make up your own mind. Luna says, the judge also wanted to know if there was any truth to my ex's claims that I was spending thousands of pounds on American gurus. You and Ian. Wow. Where is our money? I want to see these thousands of pounds you're spending on us. That would be awesome. Oh my God. Sophia says, hello, I missed you, didn't visit here for some time, hope I'm not too late. Nope, we still have some time. We're about halfway through. Mary says, I accidentally cut my palm the other week, and it's been painful and annoying for weeks. I think about your warning not to do that for blood offerings. Yes, not recommended. I know. And they do that on every movie I've ever watched. When they're going to do a pact or an offering or something like that, they take a knife and they just slice open their palm. And I'm like, what are you thinking? You're not going to be able to use that for a month.
They always hold it above, and then the blood just like flows
Drips down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy, and yes, not recommended. Murr says, we come into life with a team of teachers and guardians. Yes, they may intervene to save life and limb. Luna says, my mouth runs away with me too. Like you, I've given up trying to hold stuff in. Yeah, it's a conundrum. Lula says, yes, took warm clothes. Yay. Desiderata says, not worried about payback for help, but dang grateful. Murr says, evil is indeed not identity. Yeah, actions speak louder than words. And if actions are evil, you can pretty much be confident that the person who did them would also be evil. That's kind of...
Well, if they're doing evil things, you don't want to be around them anyway.
That's right. You don't want to be around them anyway. Julia says, I've got a question. Do you believe or think it's possible for there to be generational curses or negative spells put on a certain family that includes, of course, children or other innocent members? I've read about some of them, and it seems to be potentially possible. Part of that, of course, is the fact that if it's a generational curse, the people have been telling each successive generation about the curse so that they make sure they keep it going. It's one of those...
Yeah, it's rare, though, I think, that anybody has enough power to actually cause something like that. You know, you might consider the thing with the Templars an exception, because the head Templar pronounced a death curse on the king that... Maybe I'm getting way off topic.
No, actually, I think that's what I was going to bring up. he pronounced that within 2 years the king and the other guy that was involved in having everyone killed would die, and they did. But then everybody extended his curse to, like, all time kind of thing and into the future. And I think his death curses are probably the most powerful in my experience. And I encountered one that was a curse on the land locally here, where a young native woman on her wedding day, in her wedding dress, was raped by 3 settlers who found her and killed her. And as she was dying, she cursed the land upon which she died, and then later someone built a house there, and that was why I was there, was because of the activity going on around the house. And her spirit and the curse was still very active and very there. And she actually decided to lift the curse herself and cross over. And this is the first time I've had that happen to me, where when I was talking to her, she handed me a feather. And I've not had a spirit hand me something before. That was the first time. So I took the feather, and I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with it. And then when I went back there the following week, I realized that the feather was the lifting of the curse. And I put the spirit feather into the land and lifted the energy. So yeah, there certainly can be that kind of stuff. But again, there's a pretty famous one in Ireland where I think a family line was cursed. The first son for how many different generations would die by a certain age, and so far it's still been happening. And that, I think, though, was like a goddess who cursed them or something. I can't remember. It's been too long. But yeah, it's an interesting thought. But you can certainly take yourself out of that energetic pool, I think. E. Stefani says, I feel you have already found enlightenment, but since you mentioned this a moment ago, if you need to learn a simplistic practice, please listen to Muji and his invitational satsangs.
No, I've been working on this for years, but first, thank you. I appreciate that you feel that. Personally, I feel that I have not achieved enlightenment, because I know that, well, of course, I know all my failings and things, so I know how far I've got to go directly, so.
Self-awareness, sometimes it's a curse, yeah.
But yes, I've been studying the Hindu stuff and the tantras, things like that for some time, so yeah.
Mira says, cleansing the space creates a vacuum. That's what I said. So call in what you want and tell the rest to stay away with boundaries. Lots of sea salt and invocation. I don't use sea salt, but I know a lot of people do. Luna says, similar situation. He believes that I'm damning the kids and warping them with my beliefs. He's called social services a few times, but they're happy that I'm not doing wrong, as did the judge. Good. Because really, how can you prove that? It seems that you'd have to have a pretty bad judge. Desideradum says, how do you guys destroy thought forms and larvae? Okay. Several things. One, larvae are created by a need, an addiction, an obsession on the part of you. You can sometimes see other people's larvae, but they can't attach to you unless you have some kind of a thread, opening that they can get to. So killing off larvae is stopping to doing the activity, obsession, or thought processes that created it in the first place. And they'll fight like crazy to try and stop you from succeeding because they don't want to die, even though they're not technically alive. Thought forms, similar in the sense that thought forms are things that you create with what you think about, but thought forms are different in the sense that that's how we communicate a lot of times, through the ether. It's like, I think of you, I send you an idea, you think of me, you receive the idea. So thought forms aren't necessarily on their own bad. They can become negative if they're fed in a certain way, and if you have a fear, anxiety, or whatever, and you create a thought form that's filled with that fear and anxiety, and then your fear and anxiety continually feeds it and makes it stronger and stronger, until you change how you think and stop feeding that and stop making it. It's like you're creating it each time you think about it. Then it has no reason to go away. But they don't fight their death. They'll just disappear if you stop. If they're coming from someone else, you can just send them back. And then they have to deal with their own thoughts. At least that's my philosophy. If someone's sending me negative thought forms because they don't like something I said, or they don't like what I'm wearing, or I don't care what it is, the sound of my voice doesn't matter. They're sending me a negative thought form in my direction. I just don't accept them, and off they go. I think that's about it. So, Denise says, hi everyone. Hi Denise. Jono says, quickly, Ian, what's your sun sign?
Which I said right there.
Virgo. Yes, you are a Virgo. Sundrop says, she said her home became haunted from saging. Well, that's just baloney.
Yeah.
Saging, bringing in a plant doesn't make your house haunted. That's not true. She is incorrect. So yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I'm sorry. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, our opinion.
Our opinion.
Yep.
Sundrop says, I thought maybe she didn't do something right. Yeah. Mary's...
No, it's to cause something like that, you'd have to be purposely invoking it. So if that's not what she was trying to do, it may have been accidental thought forms or something, but you can't just mess up a smudging and have the place get haunted or anything like that. So
no, I think my explanation makes more sense.
Yeah.
There was something there that was annoyed that she was trying to get rid of it and not dealing with it, or she just left a vacuum and it kept coming back.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, clearly, that's the thing. It's like when you're walking this path, being clear about who you are and what you're doing and what you're bringing to a situation is vital. It's like the more ethereal and non-corporeal things go, the more important it is to know what you are doing and what you are bringing to it. And just to conclude that, says to me, again, she's not a very good witch. And maybe didn't do the work. Some people don't want to. Okay, so Mary says, ha ha, Luna, American Gurus. Yeah, that's us. We are the Guru group. Vanessa V says, last week I asked about some anxiety I've been having with my Hari. You recommended shadow work. I was wondering if you could recommend a specific example of what I could do. I've done a couple of videos on shadow work. Shadow work is a lifelong process. It's not something you just start and finish. I'm always doing a certain amount of shadow work. It is harder in the beginning because there's more stuff to try and figure out, and it can be kind of overwhelming. But basically, it's sort of like spiritual therapy, I guess, would be one way of looking at it. Becoming aware of your strengths and your weaknesses, changing your weaknesses into strengths, and not trying to block that information from coming in, because the more energy you spend trying to stop yourself from recognizing what's happening and who you are, the less energy you have to do anything with. It's kind of like lying. Lying takes a lot more energy than telling the truth. If you're telling the truth, there's no effort. You just are telling the truth. It's like, this happened, this is what I did, this is what I thought, this is how I felt. If you're lying, whether it's to someone else or to yourself, then it takes a lot more effort and a lot more energy, and you have to really work at it, which binds your energy up and makes it unavailable for you to use for anything else. And then the more that happens, the more difficult it is to break that cycle, because the more stuff there is to view or acknowledge. Like my father never could accept the fact that he was an alcoholic and that he was an abusive parent, because to do so would mean that he had wasted, in his mind, his entire life up to that point. So it's about bravery and acceptance of who you are, and being okay with not being perfect, because none of us are. And we're always a work in progress. We're always trying to evolve into better versions of ourselves if we're trying to go forward. So meditation, trying to think of practical stuff, is a good way. Doing some exercises like the cup transformation exercise. If you're feeling overwhelmed with a feeling, you can use that to transform that feeling into something that will do you more good. So if you're fear and anxiety filled or something like that, you can put that in the cup and then transform it into courage or acceptance or whatever you think will serve you better. And again, it's about taking responsibility for yourself and who you are. I think that's about all that pops into my head right now. You have anything to add?
No, I think that sounds good.
Okay. So Luna says, the barrister defending me asked what it meant to be a witch, practices, etc. I actually refrained from saying this, but what I wanted to say was, let me see what she wanted to say. See the pain in my face? This is because I have a Shiva lingam in my right bra cup. And an ametrine stone in the left. That's what witchcraft is. All right, that's pretty awesome. I had to go and see the end of that instead of waiting. Okay, thank you. Sophia says, I saw just earlier you recent video about working with the Fae. Did you come across with a book that not have all of these Christians' beliefs reflected? Maybe some witchcraft fairy? I just figured out for myself from having personal encounters with them that those stories weren't true, and figured out where those influences came from. But there's a couple of books, like The Real World of Fairies by Dora Van Gelder. She's someone who had actual direct experience like I have had. And there is a audio file on the internet that you can find called Conversations with Pan, which is another direct encounter with those beings, where they talk to this guy from Finhorn about what they really feel and what they're doing and what they think about us and so forth. So the thing is that it's kind of like getting information from the conquering army that came into a place and took over a culture, about the culture. You're never going to get the actual accurate information. The idea is to try and find more pure sources of it, because the conquering army is going to infer in everything that they say and they do negative things to the people that they took over, whether they're spirits or culture or mythology or the shamans or the magic or whatever it happens to be.
The winners of the war always write the history.
Exactly. And they rewrite the history of the people that they've conquered. And so, like all the stories about the Fae being denizens of the devil and being a form of demon and his servants and so forth, that could only be true after Christianity came into play, because that's their way of thinking. So you look at what's being said and what that says about who said it to get a better idea of whether it's accurate information, and then direct experience, of course, is going to be your best bet. That's my... I'm having fun today.
That's good.
So, Lewell says, I used to stutter as a child, so it was easy to be silent. Now I am just used to being quiet. Not in writing, though. Well, yeah. Well, I'm so happy I didn't have that problem, so I couldn't solve my other problem, which was talking too much about what I saw. Myrrh says, yes, curses can be generational. Oh, yes, I'm a testament to that, and have broken every one because I am a starseed alchemist who purposely came in to clean up 10 generations of trouble. Well, that's always a worthy goal. Vanessa V says, it is a little worse now. Now I have dreams where I am pulling off chunks of my hair. I guess I could start with dream work. Are you seeing a therapist about it? That might help too. Could be a form of anxiety that might be able to be helped with talk therapy or something. Mary says, I feel like part of my witch journey is that my circle of people in my life has been transforming. Did you ever feel like that happened to you? Well, okay, so when you're in a certain stage of development, you have a certain group of people around you. Even if we look at it from a mundane point of view, say you live in a household of people that do drugs or smoke and do alcohol, and then you, for some unknown reason to them, decide that you're going to stop doing those activities and you're going to pursue a different path. those people are not going to want to be around you anymore. They're going to feel uncomfortable around you because you are like a statement about their lifestyle, their chosen way of being. And every time they see you, they're going to think about that. So they're going to like start to take themselves out of the equation. So yes, as you transform, the people around you will be different because certain people won't want to be around you. And the more clear you get, the less thought forms that you generate that are negative, the less larva that you have, the more uncomfortable you make people that still have them because, it's kind of like rubbing up against a chalkboard with fingernails on it for them. And it's like they don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, so they just want to stay away from you. And they may not know why that they want to stay away. They may not verbalize it the way I would, but the results are the same. And so, yeah, I would say that's a yes. Jono says, only an enlightened person would know he's not enlightened. You and Siofra are my gurus. I unfortunately have no money for you. Well, thank you for us being your gurus, and we're sorry you have no money for us or anything else.
Speaking of that, though, a genuine guru is not going to be in the subject for money.
If money's the motive.
Yeah, if money's the motive, there's a big problem there.
Not that I think there's something wrong with making money doing what you do
well, exactly.
well, but it's still, if that's the only motivation, it's kind of like that homeopath I worked for once, or naturopath. Everyone walked in the door, his eyes lit up with dollar signs, I swear. It was like they were cash cows, money, money, money. And healing them was secondary, and if he healed them, it was an ego boost to him. That was what he got out of it. He wasn't in there to just help, and people noticed, and I certainly noticed.
Yeah, and maybe that's another something I should do a video on, gurus and what's really going on there and what does it mean. People have heard of surrendering everything to the guru and things like that, and there have been cults that have given all their money to a guru and stuff because, well, money shouldn't be your thing. You need to give it all away. So
my favorite thing is I'll take it on for you so that you aren't burdened with this thing that's going to hold you back. I'll take on this burden for you. It's like, yeah, right.
But really, a genuine guru, somebody who, by my opinion, would fit the facts, would only be interested in propagating the truth to a person. And they could ask them to do some odd things to build the person's own character legitimately and things like that. But I don't think you'll ever find the real gurus preaching on YouTube and, trying to get money that way unless it's strictly to promote the light, the advancement of humanity, things like that. So, in my opinion, for a real guru, money is never going to be the motivator. Although it could be, useful. Anybody who buys 93 Rolls Royces with it.
We know that one.
Bite my tongue. I shouldn't say that, but
another subject.
Yeah, Anyway.
So I wrote that down as far as potential video. Cool. Sundrop says, so if you do encounter bad spirits, would ringing bells rid them? I hear they don't like bells. Well, if you're ringing a bell in order to get rid of negative spirits, then yes, it should work.
With that intention, yes.
If you're just ringing a bell for fun, it might work too, but it's better to have the intention of getting rid of negative things. Julia says, thanks very much on that generational curse answer. I've seen that talked about or claimed a good number of times over the years.
Yeah, I just don't think it's not like it's all that common, like everybody could just go actually succeed at something like that. Like the head of the Templars, he was a pretty powerful individual.
So Mary says, also, any recommendations for attracting the right kind of new people in my life? No, just learning how to be yourself will probably do the trick. But there's really, there's a period that you go through where the unsavory, manipulative sociopaths will try and then tag in, since they don't care. They're only all about the manipulation and so forth. So the better you know yourself and what feels right. If it feels wrong, don't do it. If somebody feels off, you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them benefit of the doubt. You don't owe them trust. You don't owe them anything
But what I would say
at all.
is
But if they say you do, that's a red flag.
if you're following a good path and you're continuing on your own development, it will automatically happen. Unfortunately, a lot of that comes through conflicts, but there's a circulation that will happen, and some people will leave and new people will come in, and you will attract the type of people that the groups you want to be with and things. So as long as you keep your goals positive, things around you should always be improving little by little.
But always watch out for the sociopath.
Yes.
They're everywhere.
They're like a wild card.
Yes, they are a wild card. So Mur says, what is your definition of larva? A larva is like an energetic cesspool thing that is created by an addiction or an obsession or something like that. And I call them larva because that's kind of how they look. They kind of look.
Well, and that's the word Barden uses.
Well, yeah, but I knew that word before I ever heard of him. And they feed off you. They're like a parasite. They feed off of the energy of what you're doing, and they only exist as long as you do the activity that created them and that keeps them sustained and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, they're not really alive, but they feel like they are alive, and so when you try to stop doing an addiction or an obsessive compulsive kind of thing, whatever it happens to be, they'll try and fight you, and they'll try and tempt you, they'll try and make you want to do it again, they'll give you intrusive thoughts and so forth in order to have you take it up again. It's really obvious, like with smoking and alcohol, and there's lots of other things that can make larva, but those are two pretty common examples.
Any obsessional type of behavior.
And then when you do succeed in stopping feeding them, they sort of shrivel up and dry up like a husk, and then they fall off, and then they're gone.
Which is the best way to deal with them.
Yeah.
Is you stop feeding them, they die.
So Ruth says, "Oh my God, I'm a Virgo too." I'm sure there's a few of them on there, on here, since there's only 12. Mira says, "Shadow work is divine alchemy, emotional, mental alchemy." Yeah, there's lots of different definitions that people use to describe it, but shadow work is the witch's term for what we do, because it's the things that are unclaimed and unseen and often discarded and unwanted in ourselves that hold us back. And that's where the power of magic lies, is in that wildness and, the untamed sections of our mind. Jono says, thumbs up to Myrrh. Lulu says, my understanding of shadow is that if something or someone triggers me, it is my responsibility to look in the mirror and find out what in me makes me feel that way. Yeah, that's part of it, figuring out what's your responsibility. But that doesn't mean that because someone triggered you that there's not something wrong with them too. That's a mistake that we often make when we think everything is our fault, everything we do reflects us and is like our responsibility and so forth, and to get rid of our triggers. You figure out what's your responsibility and take care of your part, but that doesn't mean there's not something going on in a situation. So you don't want to blind yourself by just taking responsibility for everything that happens in the universe. I'm trying to think of a good example. It's like, okay, so if you have an excessive reaction to something, that would be a good example. So say somebody says something to you, and on the face of it, it's like a small thing, but you have like an overblown response to it. Then you sit with that and you look at that to see why. And if you find there's a source, like in your past, in your childhood, in another relationship that this situation reminds you of, you deal with that. And then if there's anything left over in the present, in the situation that you're in that's not okay, then you deal with that separately. Yes, that would be one way of putting it. But it is about taking personal responsibility for your own stuff because it's not fair to dump it on everybody else. So Julia says, I always say to cleanse, bless, and protect when you are doing a house blessing, or a personal one for that matter. Cleanse the negative, then bless with something good like prosperity, and finally protect. Sundrop says, I like the idea of belly cleansing. Bells are so calming to me. Bell cleansing. I don't think she meant belly. Vanessa V
Belly
says, thank
cleansing
you.
is good too, though.
Laugh! Laughing is good. Negative things don't want to be around a room full of laughter, so you could belly cleanse too. I get behind that. So Vanessa V says, thank you, you're welcome. E. Stephanie says, thank you again for your honesty and everything you do to spread knowledge. We grow stronger together. Yes. Sundrop says, I like the idea of bell cleansing, but I just need to know how to get rid of bad spirits. Well, I mean, that's one way, the bell cleansing. If your energy space is filled with positivity, negative things don't like to be there. It's kind of like a fish out of water. Yeah. So the environment is important to spirit beings. Since they're non-corporeal, they exist in a place that is only of energy and so forth. The energy that you put out and that you fill in a space is going to determine what spirits are attracted to it and feel comfortable there, and what spirits are rejected or repelled by it and don't feel comfortable there. So it's sort of like a passive way of protection. If you fill your space with positive energy, light energy, and that kind of thing, then negative spirits are not going to find it tasty, and you'll be like, lick in their mouth and go away. Unless you are one of those people that prescribe to the idea that because you're light, you are tasty, and you feed that, which is a lot of Christianity mythos, unfortunately. But that's something you have control over. Vanessa V says, could you write down the name of the book about the fairy, please? Take off this so I can type well. Okay, I've typed it in. So, Luna says, do you guys know anything about John Matthews? He claims to work directly with the she.
I do not.
I don't either. I haven't seen or run across him as yet. Vanessa V says, I read one called A Summer with the Leprechaun. Sorry, I don't remember how it's spelled. It's supposed to be direct experience as well. Can't remember the author's name, though. Mary says, I love what you say about shadow work. When we feel our shadow arise, just notice without judgment and give yourself love. More light we shed on shadow, the less we will act out of it subconsciously.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, I like that. And the thing is there's so much power and energy in there. It really is. There's it's a huge source of magic and oomph. Vanessa V says, oh, I've heard about him too, Luna. No idea, though. Sundrop says, how about selenite wands for cleansing? Oh, yeah, I love them. I have a bunch of different selenite pieces, and I use that because it is like, spirits can see it. It is like solidified light energy. That's how I sense it. I use it to cleanse my own aura. I slept with one of my selenite wands a couple of nights ago, and I think I ended up sleeping on it under my body and woke up with a sore back. So you have to be careful when you sleep with rocks. They can get uncomfortable. But it's also, selenite is really good for decreasing inflammation. So if you have some inflamed thing like a toothache, an earache, or something like that, you can use it to reduce the inflammation in the area. And I've used that on myself successfully. Yeah, I recommend selenite for sure. Luo says, going back to Christianity, Jesus told his followers that everyone must be told about it converted. Very black and white thinking. So anyone who isn't a believer is keeping the second coming from happening.
I counter that with something out of the Bible directly and right about the translators and stuff, but where Jesus tells someone to go pray in a closet. Those who pray in a closet will get their reward from heaven. Those who do it in public, they have their reward. In other words, don't proselytize, don't pray for, so that people can watch you praying. Don't do it for self-aggrandizement.
Yeah, this is a different...
And that kind of goes away a little bit.
Yeah, this is slightly different in that they believe that everyone has to be converted in order for Jesus to come back.
Yeah, well,
but I disagree.
I can't argue about that point.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
But I do know the one about praying in the closet.
Yeah, and I like that one too. Vanessa V says, I'm looking for a new therapist. Good. Luna says, at Vanessa, I have a couple of Matthew's books, but not around to reading them. Haven't gotten around to reading them yet. Lula says, this is why they must convert you or get rid of you. It's an existential problem.
Yep, yeah, that's...
Lula says, I like this place because nobody acts self-important. Yay! Mur says, Jesus never said any such thing. Those translating said it. We don't need to get into a discussion about the accuracy or inaccuracy of the texts that are involved in this.
Yes, but there were...
But it's true.
Yeah.
Mur says, or Luna says it, Mur well said. Mur says, Jesua showed and was an example of transcending the third dimension. The biblical translations left out anything truly helpful to humanity. Thank you for the explanation of larva. I've come up against those a few times in this life. Darling says, I'm a Scorpio. Yay! First says, agree on the trigger situation. And the second coming of Christ consciousness is here. It's all of us who do transcend this 3D existence. So Vanessa V says, Luna, I've only watched an interview. JT, not enough to form an opinion, but he was promoting an oracle deck they designed. So I think. So I don't know. And Vanessa V says, that's a lot, Siofra. Okay. And Luna says, thanks, Siofra. That will save me having to rematch and find the part where you mentioned the name of the book, as I like to read it too. Good. I think rewatch. Bep says, always a selenite next to my pillow. Yes. Awesome. Luna says, rewatch, like I figured. Desiderodum says, I read about an ancient Sumerian bell banishing. You ring a bell and say, I'm not going to try and say that.
Hecus est the bibeloi.
But I don't know what it means. It says it blasts negative spirits away.
Crowley uses it.
Oh, does he? Luna says
you're supposed to, never mind, we won't get into that. Go ahead.
Okay. Luna says that, Vanessa, I have one of the oracle decks, the she oracle of the fleeting hair. Sophia says Jesus was a Jew man and practiced Judaism. Well, yes, absolutely. Desiderodum says, I think Sumerian, but maybe Mesopotamian or Babylonian. It's found on cuneiform tablets. Lua says, any Leos here? I don't know. I'm sure there must be a few. We have 45 or 46 people right now. So out of those, nice. I would think at least 3 of them would be Leos. Maybe even 4. Murr says Leo. See, there you go. There's one. We could all say what we are. But then that would take the last 7 minutes that we have left. And Joey says a Leo here. See, there's 3. And maybe a 4th. So yeah, just the law of averages. Vanessa V says, Luna, is it good? Mur says, Leo, Scorpio, rising, Aries moon. Bep says, Virgo. Desiram says, sorry, Lou, I'm a fish goat. I think that means that you're also a Capricorn like me. That would be a fish goat. A dolphin with it's weird. It's a goat with a fish's tail, and I don't understand it at all, but I like it. You know. Yes, Leo, Capricorn, rising, Gemini moon. Another Leo. Well, we knew she was Leo because she asked. Yep, Desiram says, yep, that's Capricorn. Mur says, I nearly have no Earth. I have more Earth than I need because apparently I needed it a lot because I didn't have any naturally. Luna says, thank you all, guys. Blessings for the week ahead and hope you enjoy your celebrations on Tuesday, Shifranian.
Well,
Thank you. We have about 6 minutes, so we're not completely out of here yet. So if you have more questions, we're going to stay. So, but we appreciate you taking care of us by noticing the time. It's like,
That's been a great conversation.
yeah, I haven't seen Shay pop in, and she was supposed to have today off and be joining us today, but she's probably busy with her friend, which I don't blame her. It's not like she gets to visit very often. But yeah, we are definitely going to celebrate our anniversary and our love for one another and our happiness about that. Luna says, at Vanessa, I've only used it once. I just got it 2 weeks back. Accurate first reading and love the images. Bep says, talking about Exodus Earth, double Virgo. Yeah, I'm double Capricorn. Desiree says, good magical use for lemons.
Well, I can tell
Make
you.
me my mouth pucker.
Well, I can tell you a magical use for lemons. If from old hoodoo magic, if you want to put a curse on somebody, or write it on a slip of paper and stick that in your lemon and either nail it together or pin it together with pins through it.
Oh yeah.
Don't recommend doing it, but that's the first thing that pops into my mind about a magical use for lemons.
You have done that once, right? At least.
That's another whole long
whole
story. Yeah, but I don't think I used a lemon, but other things will work, like an onion or anything irritating, basically.
Right. That's true.
Not that I recommend doing that at all. Bad practice, so don't do it. But
Violet says, thanks you both, as always awesome. Mer says, what's your opinion on astrocartography? I'm near my Neptune line mainly since 1988. I find it interesting, but I'm not that seriously into astrology. Certainly the Saturn return has affected me, though.
I'm just too bad at math to really get into astrology.
Rita says, excellent live, guys. Great questions from everyone. Yes, I think so, too. Lou says, have a great week. I am so glad I was here at the beginning. Had a headache for 2 days straight, and it was gone just for this. All right.
Glad.
So we don't make headaches. We make them go away. Joey says, happy anniversary to both of you. Thank you. Vanessa V says, thanks, Luna. I might check it out someday. Julia says, lots of fire and water here. Quad and conjunct of Scorpio, 3 planets, and ascendant trine of fire. Mer says, yes, thanks very much. I love you both. You're welcome and thank you. Luna says, not something I'd go in for, though, as far as the deck goes. Jono says, I think the land guardian here is strong and amazing. Any OTO style methods for making contact with him? Her?
Not really, and it's questionable if there would even be OTO style methods. The OTO is the initiatory group you go through. So it's an experiential order, not a teaching order, so they don't really, you're expected to learn things on your own. And there has been, in the past, curriculums that have come up that have been recommended people do, and things like that. But anything I would call the OTO teachings and stuff, I never got high enough to be privy to. Not that it matters, because they're out there anyway and you can find them if you care to do enough of a search to figure out what the methods are. They're not unique. What is unique to the OTO is the style of its initiations and the order that was put together by Carl Kellner and them. So mostly what you get through going the OTO is the experience of going through the OTO and going through the initiations. So,
and I think that basically ceremonial magic kind of stuff is not what land guardians are looking for.
Well, and they don't teach ceremonial magic either. I mean, the Golden Dawn would be good for that, but the OTO is basically an experiential order. It's so you go through the degrees, and that's its full purpose. And the other things have been attached to it, like Crowley stuff, and the U.S. accepted him. Other branches of the OTO did not, so.
That's
sorry,
a whole
I didn't
subject.
mean to make that all, yeah.
But, right, land guardians are generally native, experiential kinds of magic. So you might look to the culture that you're around.
And I don't know anything about them personally much.
So Julia says, I just love it here. Again, my gratitude and appreciation to all, and to Siofra and Ian. Hugs and blessings to those who want them. Thank you.
Hugs and blessings to everybody back.
Yeah, Desiderata says, happy sushi on Tuesday. Yes. Mary says, happy anniversary. Thank you. Vanessa V says, thank you, Siofra and Ian. Good day, everyone. And Desiderata says, another happy 31 years. I hope so. That would be wonderful. Mer says, it's time to bring out of ourselves what we knew before in lives and other worlds. Jennifer S. says, happy anniversary and blessed be. And Ian says, thank you all, blessed be. And Bep says, sprinkle lemon into someone's eyes. Just don't get it in my mouth. I can't stand this stuff. Jono says, thanks. Nature spirits want nature style approach. Should have guessed. Yes. Darlene says, blessed be to all with love. All right, so it's time for us to go, and thank you for saying all your goodbyes in a timely fashion, so we can leave and know that everything is good. So we'll talk to you guys later, and if you want to, get in touch with us, you can contact me on my Gmail, Siofra's Magic Alcove at gmail.com, and whatever else on Facebook, and Anyway, bye everybody. Blessed be.